Welcome to Millennium Counseling Center's podcast, where each week we go in depth into all things mental health, addiction recovery, and being our healthiest and happiest self. Enjoy. What if the strongest thing a man can do was say what he really thinks, feels, and needs? Welcome to the Say What Matters podcast with Oren and Rahsaan.
We've gone deep about a lot of different things, but we've never talked about our dads.
I know.
And this idea of a father wound, even that term father wound, like what does that feel like for you when you hear it?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's going to be vulnerable and like expose pain. But at least for me, I've talked personally and professionally with a lot of people around the different things that shape me as a kid and as an adolescent and a young adult from the role of my dad. And so it's also comforting to know that this isn't the first time, that I'm talking about this, with somebody that I know.
So I'll tell you right now,
Yeah.
I feel pulsation in my left arm.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like electrical current. I feel a little bit of like tightness in my chest and a little tightness in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it would be related to listening to you and hearing some of my experience and what you were saying. And so there's both that protector instinct of you're a friend. I've had this experience too. And so I'm activated because of our relationship.
Yeah.
And then part of it is the activation from my own multiple patterns that I didn't know I was running because of my dad, and trying to find ways to feel worthy or make myself happy to compensate for what I didn't receive for him and just how that was showing up in my life.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that it's more comfortable for you to listen to my story, or do you think it's going to be more comfortable telling your story?
Oh, it's 100% is more comfortable listening to your story.
Okay.
And this was something that I realized for myself in the past few months. One of the skills that I've become really good at is listening and holding space for people. And part of the development of that skill is about not being seen, is about so I can kind of be in the cut and never like disclose and never share what's going on with me
Mm-hmm.
and allow people to be fully held emotionally. And I could justify it saying, I have the skill to hold space for people, so I can use that skill and help others feel a level of comfort. But then, like, what about my space? When am I allowed to express and feel free to express myself for others? And that's something that is a thread in my dad relationship where he was, I think, clinically a narcissist, and he had a way of talking at you. He was one of those people that talk at you instead of having a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so he would talk for hours at you. And if you brought an opinion or if you brought a perspective, that would elongate the conversation. So if you've been talked at by somebody for 2 hours, the last thing you want to do is being talked at by somebody for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And so it's a skill set that I picked up in just relationship management from him of not speaking up at times because I just want the conversation to be over. or giving space to others and not giving space to myself and I don't think not because I don't deserve to be seen, but because I picked that up as like a survival trait
Mhm.
that me speaking up is just going to prolong my pain. So I'm just going to keep things to myself.
Mhm. Do you remember a thing that you really wish you could have said when you were younger that was listened to or held?
Dude, super real. The first day was going to be shut the fuck up, you know?
I love that.
Yeah, that's the first thing I got.
I get parenting advice from my 10-year-old, so I get it.
That's gold. But in general, I think most things with my dad weren't said because of his personality and his style. And so he was, very intelligent man, very articulate, able to communicate about a lot of different issues in a very skillful way. He had like a domineering personality, so he could be very like strong and you could feel his presence with like pressure.
Mhm.
He was charismatic. And so he was able to, weave a tale or speak in a way that was alluring, but with control or sternness or all these strong negative elements to it. And so,
Authoritarian.
yeah, yeah. So a lot of things that I would have said or could have said have just never been said to him because of his approach to conversations, as well as just his personality in general. And if I go along that thread, yeah, always I'm very much like listening to my body and listening to what activates when I speak about my dad because it's one
Mhm.
of my core wounds that I acknowledge that I wanted to heal and process from. And so he was one of those people where I've actually reflected on this a lot. I cannot recall a time that he said he was proud of me, like full stop in my entire life. And this goes from academics to sports to any and everything. There was always some form of not good enough criticism.
Mhm.
You like I could have been MVP of the game, but it's like the way I ran to first base. There was
Yeah.
always some element of this isn't good enough to the point where when I got accepted to a couple of Ivy League schools and decided to go to one, and his first thing was, "Why are you going to the FBI feeder school? Like they're gonna brainwash you, all this, So everything is being met through this like critical and criticism based lens, and you just accept it over time. This is kind of who he is, and this is experience. And he came to my graduation, which I probably didn't want to invite him. My parents got divorced pretty early, and that was a big wound for me to deal with recently was being forced to choose between which parents you were going to stay with at 7 years old and literally being taken in the car by my dad. So, what are you going to do? Like this very domineering, like, who are you going to choose? And choosing my mother and him, blaming me for the breakup of their relationship, the breakup of the marriage. I'm the reason why the family's falling apart. And I'm off on a thread, but I'll thread it for you.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
And he used to speak very disparagingly about overweight people. He used to like talk, fat bastards and all this stuff, like
Mhm.
very, very disparagingly. And when I was little, all my pictures of I'm like super skinny. And then the next pictures are like I have this huge round face and I'm like overweight. And it was, I've only learned recently that my kind of relationship with emotional eating was this internalization of his hatred for overweight people because I was like to blame for the disillusion of their marriage. And I, physically changed myself to be someone that wasn't worthy of love in the way that it was being told to me. And so that's like something, I like took directly from him, which is super wild how that end can play out for your entire life, yo-yoing with, emotional eating or diet or weight or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so that he always had this kind of presence in my life. And when I went to university, graduation, if I think about it, I'm sure I wouldn't have wanted to invite him, but my mother would have probably made me invite him. And I'll never forget this because it it struck me so hard where he comes to graduation, he's in a great mood, it's like it's graduation day, the parents are there, the students are there, everybody's smiling, having like a great time. And there was a friend of mine, a Ryoji, this Japanese kid that I met my freshman year. We weren't like best friends, but like, we would see each other at parties or have a class here and there. And like, just, we always had time for each other, always like a lot of love. And then we kind of go our ways. And when I saw him at graduation, he was like, yo, we made it, blah, blah, blah. And I introduced him to my dad. And my dad was like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. I'm so proud of you for what you've done. And I hear this shit and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you just met this random kid this minute and
Mhm.
you said something to him that you've never said to me in 21 years over every accomplishment, over everything I strive to or be. And you say this thing to some rando that you've never given to me.
Mm.
It was shocking to hear, and I didn't process it at the time. It was just so like, "Are you kidding me, moment?" Like, "Are you kidding me?" And I never said anything of it, just kinda, like, left it, and maybe, like, 13 years later, I was in Japan, and Ryoji was living back in Tokyo at the time, and hit him up, we meet up, we go out for drinks, and he told me, he's like, I'll never forget on graduation day when your dad told me he was proud of me because it meant so much to me because my dad wouldn't tell me those same things. And for a dad, for me to hear those words from a dad that I'm proud of you, he's like, I'll never forget that. That was like one of the highlight moments of my life from a dad experience. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, how twisted is this?
Mhm.
That he gets something from my dad that he couldn't get from his dad. And I can't get the thing from my dad that I desire to get from my dad. So I was
Mhm.
like, where's Ryoji's dad? Maybe he'll like give me a shout
Little
out.
swap, little dad swap.
Little dad swap.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Wow, that's a story, man.
yeah.
Mhm. Did you ever hear any praise from your dad?
No, no. I think that's where I've always been an overachiever, and part of it is because of that, looking for that praise from both my father and my mother. And there was a point in time where I didn't desire it anymore, where I was like, okay, clearly this is not going to happen.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to create the praise for myself. I'm going to be the one to praise myself. I'm going to do these amazing things. And I drown myself in work to provide, work as my form of dad. I can achieve these things in work. And they tell me that I've done a good job. They'll compensate me for. And so I became, an overworker in that way. And there was a period where this is in my 20s sometime, maybe like late 20s, where I decided that no longer wanted to have a relationship with my dad because it was just detrimental to my mental health. Every phone call we had was a criticism fest, about how I'm not a man, how I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, whatever it was going to be a criticism fest towards me
Mm.
and my behavior. And I was like, yeah, okay, I've had enough of this. We're good. Don't ever call me again. I'm not going to pick up the phone. I won't respond to your emails. Like, I'm good. We're done. And so we didn't speak for maybe like 12 or 13 years. And I was completely fine with it. I'm like, this dude is done for my life. And he was living in Ghana for a while. And this is a different thread for another time. Maybe it's this time. But he had gotten ill when he was in Ghana. And his brother, who I had a decent relationship with, he called me and he's like, your dad needs help. I'm like, I don't like that dude's dead to me. I don't mess with him like that. And he's like, he really needs your help. He's like trying to navigate the healthcare system. They're talking about amputations. They're all these things. And I'm just like, you're calling the wrong dude. like I have a brother, I have a sister. Holler at them. I just don't mess with this dude. And he was really pushing on me hard to help my dad out. And it's funny how life works at times where I just started doing word of the year, a couple of years before, where you have a word that's your theme word of the year. So you pick growth and you're like, I'm going to grow this year. You pick joy. I'm going to be more joyous this year. Well, this was the year that my smart ass decided to pick compassion. And the year that my dad is brought back into my life is the year of compassion, like F&A. So I thought through my compassionate lens, would the most compassionate version of me do? And I feel the heaviness in my chest. Even
I
talking
feel it over
about
here, man.
So the compassionate version was the version that would, help him, help his brother, and start doing things to navigate this situation.
Thank you for joining us on Say What Matters podcast. To follow Oren or Rahsaan on social media or in other places, please see our information in the show notes.